Hello, 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 Borderline Podcast Disordarians. I hope you had a good week, and I hope you are planning to go out and vote today. If you're based in the UK, of course, don't go to the voting polls. If you're in a different country, because you might just waste your time. I don't know, but thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming over. Oh, sorry, I'm just looking at the. I was just watching the England game, and there was a scene of like couple of people, English player, breaking a fight with opposition player. Anyway, how was your week? Was it good? I hope so. Today's interview, it's a good one. I speak with Chris, and such a huge I'm such a huge fan of Chris. Um, Comedy wise, a very funny guy, but I also love his ambition. Like he's done all these, you know, really wild challenges. He's been running around. As we've talked, as we're talking on the podcast, I think on the week just before we had the conversation, he talked about how he ran to France. He ran to Dunkirk. um it's Yeah, it's just fascinating. You can see all his work and like his vlogging um in on his socials, which will be in the bio of the podcast. From me, well, I'm just trying to hang out, hang like there, and I'm just waiting for stuff. Like I'm looking forward to certain things. I'm just waiting for some doctor's results. Um, by the time again this is coming out, I will be done with the last bits of testing. I don't know when I get the results. I'll let you know. And besides of that, life has been nice. It's been okay recently. Again, still a lot of things that could be improved and a lot of stuff that could go better, but just gotta enjoy, all the little things. Like I enjoyed Juliet. I have a socket in my house which allows me to plug my Hoover in and just hoover the whole house without having to unplug and replug the Hoover, and that makes me quite happy. And it just reminded me today when I was hoovering how nice that is. Well, as I'm talking to you now and recording and everything, I'm next to Pickle and Sarma, and they make me very happy. The thought of my parents recently is made me happy, although again happy and sad at times. I miss them a lot. I think especially because of the whole, Euros and the Olympics happening this summer, and obviously Copa America, but I haven't paid as much attention to it because of the schedule really. Um, it makes me feel a lot of homesick, and it makes me perhaps what's the word? It makes me feel a bit melancholic. Like I generally have this thing where I have mentioned my partner that the last time when I remember being just happy and without a worry was in the FIFA 2006 World Cup, also in Germany, summer. So yeah, when you think about that, every time I think there is again football on, every time is international, I think that's one of the memories that comes with it, and it just makes me feel again sad and happy, at the same time. It reminds me of that was such an amazing summer. I just remember being happy and playing a lot, playing loads of video games, eating a lot of yogurt. I think my dad used to buy this yogurt from Ukraine, and I would eat a lot of it, and it was really nice. And I just remember again, I just remember being genuinely happy, and I remember not having a worry, And while everything else ever since, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm happy, but then this thing is not going well, and then the other thing is not going well, and that's when I guess my mind started playing tricks on me. I don't know. I don't want to blame my mind. I think I'm very much responsible for it. It's mine in the end of the day. But yeah, and then look, Copa America. Why? So that it doesn't feel like I'm leaving out anything. I remember was one of the very few memories that very happy memories I have with my granddad. We don't necessarily get along, and we haven't spoken in years. I've not spoken to him directly since after my mom's funeral. On the day of my mom's funeral, we had a chat, and I've not talked to him since then. So yeah, I hope that gives you a bit of a perspective about like our relationship. It's sad. I often feel very bad about it, but it's not. I feel like I've done a lot, and I tried my best, and it's just not really working out. And maybe it's better for us not to be as close. But yeah, one of the happiest memories that I have is watching the Copa America with my granddad. It was oh my God, I think it was actually around the maybe 2008 actually. I think it was 2008. It was when Spain won when that like crazy good Spanish generation went on just doing amazing things for almost a decade. Uh yeah, that was the one. I remember Argentina weren't doing too well back then. I can't remember who won. I honestly can't remember who won, but I just remember watching it with my granddad and just being very happy and like staying up till late. Like I remember it was like a very hot summer. That's one of the summers that I talk about in my comedy set where I used to go fishing a lot. And yeah, then I'd come home in the evening, and obviously it's getting darker and it's a bit like chill, and we'd have football on. We'd have European football at first, and then the Copa America, and then we'd go to sleep, and then I'd wake up the next morning and do some other crazy, dumb kid stuff, which I really loved. But you know what? That's enough for me. I feel like I've talked a lot. I did enjoy it though, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. And I'll just leave you with Chris now. And yeah, I'll catch you later. Chris, how's it going?
Very good, man. I am happy. Played football earlier, got that post exercise endorphin high, so yeah, I'm happy.
You play every Sunday, no?
Pretty much, yeah. I've took a few weeks off because I ran from London to France 3 weeks ago, so my legs were a bit sore. So I
I
took a
think
few.
I've seen a couple of posts about it. How was it?
Yeah, it was really good fun. It was really adventurous. It was tough. Like I run a bit and play football a bit and train a bit, but you can't train for that. So it took me 3 days, 150 kilometers, and it was like 65k the first day, 50 the second day, and whatever the balance is, 40 or 35 the third day. So like I was very stiff and sore by the end, but like it was dead adventurous. I was running up country lanes over the North Downs in Kent. I was running down dual carriageways in Calais in France.
How did you close? How did you cross the water?
So I got the boat. So I ran from day one was London to somewhere in Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Day two was Faversham was the town. Day two, Faversham to Dover. Took the boat over to Calais. Day three, Calais to Dunkirk. I was aiming for Dunkirk centre, but the last few kilometers, like the Google Maps route, took me down a dual carriageway, and I was like, I don't want to fucking get arrested, so I stopped in like the outskirts of Dunkirk. I know you're legally you can run down those in the UK, which I did, or well, some parts. So I ran down the A2 in Kent, which is legal but
Oh.
very unpleasant. Like there's a cycle lane in heavy inverted commas. The cycle lane's like a meter wide, so there was lorries flying past. So I took a huge detour to get off that road as soon as possible. Then it took me down like a similar road in France. I was like, I don't know, like I don't know the rules. I don't know what's going on here. So I'll just stop now. But
What?
I'd done the thing anyway. I'd completed it, so I was happy
Yeah,
with that.
but what made you want to do it in the first place?
I want to, whilst I'm like young and in my prime and fat, I want to do like a long, like multi-day or week-long running expedition. So this was like a test to see
Interesting.
how
So you
good
have something else planned?
yeah, something, but I've not decided what. Like something like John O'Groats to Land's End, so the full
Uh-huh.
length to the UK. Probably not that because that's been done loads, but like I'm looking at like maybe the Baltic countries, like a small European country or two or something like that.
You know, because yeah, I mean, this is the thing. You kind of you combine comedy or like like funny content with this like sports. Uh, I don't know, like you love sports, right? But then
Yeah.
you weren't always like this.
No, so two things there. One, combining comedy and sports. I wrestle with that in my mind a lot, so I'd love to do that, and those are two things I'm into. I think that unfortunately social media like punishes that and forces you. Like the people that get the best on social media go right down into one niche and hammer that one niche, whatever it is. I think I'm like maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. So I'm like, can I combine like stand up jokes and stuff like that, and then some total different thing, which is like running adventures. That's what I'd like to do, but these algorithms sort you to like an audience. So like if I've got loads of followers that are into running, they'll be like, "What's this stand up shit?" Or vice versa. If it's like people that like my jokes and all that, they're like, "What? Why am I watching a clip of you like running down a highway in France?" So I don't know. I don't know yet if that's a good strategy or not.
That's interesting because I always, like I find now at some point that I do because obviously is like is the comedy for me, and then is the mental health,
Yep.
advocacy, and like what the podcast is, and um, I I mean, I kind of get it because I think I found that on Instagram, it kind of works for the both of them. Like I get followers based on both the podcast
Mm-hmm.
and comedy videos. But I've actually noticed on Facebook and YouTube that on YouTube when I started posting both clips from the podcast
Yep.
episodes and comedy, it just didn't get like actually both of them just went downhill, while
Mm.
when it was only comedy, I started trending back again.
So YouTube, like again, I've got no data to support this, but I've got a gut feel that of all the social platforms, YouTube is the most interested in like sorting you into one niche, and like they'll do whatever they do in the background, and they'll be like, Levy's content is comedy for like fucking men under the age of 40 in England, so I'm going to show his stuff to them. So then when a mental health podcast bit comes up, they're like, what the fuck, this isn't why I clicked on
Yeah, I
that guy.
clicked on this.
I like that. That is theoretical in my brain. No idea if that's true or not. But I feel the same when I do like long distance running stuff and then stand up. It's like they're quite different as well. I think there's a closer link. Like a lot of comedians talk about mental health, but I somehow think my two things are more incongruous. Maybe.
But I personally find it fascinating, because I think that, like you said, it's too. I think we are in like such an I don't know, like a crossroads of, oh, we want people to be people are welcome to be as different as possible,
Yeah.
and to have like their own thing. And then just like you said, then you find those challenges about actually doing that, because then
Yep.
if you were, or like if I were, if anyone was to like, oh, I'm just gonna pick one thing and run with it, but then is this really, like, again, why not? And I guess it's harder, and I generally I agree with that. But I mean, I just hope you don't give up, man. I hope you don't just like choose one, because I found both fascinating. I remember I watched your stories, like, so because you did post a couple of things, right?
Yeah. I put it on
That's
stories.
why, because I was like, I'm not making it up, because I do remember, and I was like, oh my god, because I am truly fascinated, because I also find that one of the things that really fascinates me about this, because I run now, and since the last time we had a conversation off podcast, um I've started like I'm running, although I'm struggling with some like other physical stuff. But I've run a bit, and I'm maintaining about like 20 to 30 kilometers a week for now.
That's a good
Thank you.
kilometerage or mileage.
Thank you. So yeah, it's like just under, I think, just under a marathon per week.
Yep.
Um, and it's not easy, but I do find you as a bit of a like an example, you know, or like a bit of
Man.
yeah. No, it's serious because I was gonna say earlier what I deviated from is that one of the things I find fascinating as well is that the lifestyles are wildly different.
Go on, tell me more.
No, because you know, like on in the respect of like you know comedians, you have like although I don't drink now, but you have you know you it's always this thing where you know you hang out at a show, you hang out with other comedians, you get home late, you wake up late, and then obviously we are at the situation where we still have like you know day jobs and things like that that we kind of like you have to work again work for, and then how do they look almost like two things that it's hard to combine based on that, you know? Cause
Yeah, I get that. And I'll tell you what, though, some of the best like drinking sessions I've had are after a run. Like, a pint goes down very easily if you've just done a 5K or a 10K or something.
is that
like
what you done when you went to Dunkirk, or like were you meeting anyone there, or
No,
did you?
totally solo.
Wow.
So I had a tiny little running backpack. I wanted to go light. I support Celtic, the football team. I was wearing a Celtic strip. The only thing I had in my back was another Celtic strip, and I didn't meet
Wow.
anyone. The reason for that was right. So the Celtic strip is green and white hoops. It's
Yeah.
called the Hoops. Celtic got to the UEFA Cup final in 2003, played in Seville, and there's this like legendary, mythical story maybe of this guy who. So 80,000 Celtic fans went from Glasgow to Spain
Oh, wow.
to like be there for this. This one guy, Celtic supporter, was spotted carrying a plastic bag, and there's this like legendary story of these guys. So he had nothing but a plastic bag the whole time, and eventually these guys were like, "Man, what have you got in the bag?" And he opened it and he pulled out a Celtic strip. He said, "All I've got is spare hoops." So my run to France was the spare hoops challenge. Nothing but my passport and my spare hoops for the 3 days. And yeah, I didn't meet anyone. Day one, stayed in an Airbnb. Day two, stayed in a hotel. Day three, finished the run and then got the Eurostar back. So I got the train from Dunkirk to Lille and then the Eurostar back to London. And that was it. Travelled super light.
Wow.
And I was lucky because the route I took, like, I didn't have to carry much like food or water.
Mhm.
I was never very far away from the next town or village. So
Mhm.
I could buy a bottle of water or like chocolate bar or something to keep me going.
But that I love the story about the plastic carrier bag and the hoops because you because I remember like you went you did I mean you did a similar thing in Qatar, right, for the world. I mean obviously not similar, but you also did a challenge,
Yeah,
I guess. Just-
I'll tell you that one. Yeah, I kicked a football. I dribbled a football between the two biggest World Cup stadiums in Qatar, which was like I think it was 32 kilometers through the desert, 41-degree heat. Did it on. I was flying back home from Sydney and had a 1-day flight layover, so I was like, I'm gonna do this. Inspired by my favorite YouTuber, a guy called Geo Wizard, who did a video where he kicked a ball across England from like coast to coast. So I saw that. I was like, that's really fucking cool. I want to try that.
I think yours was yours was cooler, especially because like it was so on trend, you know. Because I think was it just around like or before, right? Just
Yeah,
before.
it was the 31st of. I landed in Doha on the 31st of October 2022, and that was the last day you could get into that country without like a special visa for the World Cup, which I didn't have. I was just doing a
Mhm.
layover. So I was like, man, this is like written in the stars. My flight lands at this time on this day. If I'd landed like 8 hours later,
you could have not done it.
no, I wouldn't have been allowed to leave the airport. So I was
Interesting.
like, well, I've got to do something. And I'd seen that YouTube video. I was like, that's really cool. Let's try that.
But then, like, how much do you train when you don't do this? Like, what's your like? I guess a standard week like what's your sport of choice? Obviously, we talked about like you like to play football. You how yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I play football every once a week on a Sunday, and like I'll go for a run twice, maybe 3 times. I'm not like a super. I
Mm.
don't do it lots and lots, despite what I'm probably sounding like here. Which is another thing. So we're talking about social media and like picking a niche and all that and doing one thing. But like I think people who have one thing who's their and that's their whole personality, are the most boring people in the world. Like, I'm so like I've spoke most of the first 10 minutes of this about running. That is like that is a fraction of my personality. But social media might make you think this guy fucking runs 6 days a week and he thinks about it all the time. Not the case. I don't like that social media has forced us down that lane. But yeah, like people are not one dimensional. People have many interests and views, and they often like don't add up to what you might think they would.
That's what I was gonna say about I love the phrasing you did with like the one dimensional stuff. Where I think about it as well when I sometimes, and I used to struggle a lot with like following people online for, again, like I think wellness stuff.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, they must live like this, because that's the thing. You think, oh, they must live like a monk,
Yeah.
like Monday to Sunday, and then you kind of you don't do it for one day, and then you're like, oh god, I'm like, I think in my situation, I thought, you know what, I'm the biggest piece of shit in the world. What's wrong with me? Like clearly this guy is running like, or like this lady or this person is running 50 million miles a day.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
bullshit.
yeah, and then there is me who wouldn't like do 10,000 steps each day.
Yeah.
And now I have to like beat myself over it.
That Instagram especially makes you think that you just see this super curated, like, oh my, this guy's like, so we do comedy, and all you see is like people smashing the shit out of their gigs because you wouldn't post a clip of yourself bombing. So if you have a gig that's like even a 7 out of 10, you're like, but I saw this guy, he got 1 million views on Instagram. Oh my, I'm shit because I'm never going to be like that. You're just, it's like fucking the video equivalent of like airbrushed like photos of models that give young women these body image issues. That's not realistic, nor is a fitness influencer or a comedian or anything you see on Instagram such a heavily curated thing.
And I think it's important to realize that, no, because at least you I think it humanizes people, which it's one of the, I personally think, is one of the problems with some of the things at the moment, where we kind of like forget about that side, where we, again, like you said, nobody posts a shit gig, and although you say that, but then there is I want to say a friend of mine, friend, comedian, because that's what I was, when you know a comedian and you've gigged with them for a while, and you had some like very good conversations, but you don't know whether you're friends or your acquaintances or
are we colleagues or like what
colleagues. But I think with the said person, I am a friend, and then he started for a while posting videos of him just like bombing, where you would say something and then there would just be silence. And I thought, you know what, that I think more, like I said, more people should do it.
So that's very brave, and I do think like one person will probably go and do that to great success just because it's so different. Like that's the other thing about social media; it promotes things that are different that have never been seen before. So maybe if someone starts putting videos of themselves bombing, like 1 or 2 people could probably enjoy a lot of success from that. But that's a ballsy move.
But apparently there was like, I think Norm Macdonald, who used to basically like just do bad on purpose and to then make fun of himself about how bad he was doing. Like, yeah, I heard, and because I think he's the one who, because he had like some like he was like a TV host, like, or like a show host for a bit, right? And then he passed away. May he rest in peace, a couple of years ago. But then, yeah, that's what I heard. And again, I might be wrong. It might be someone else, but I'm pretty sure it's him.
He is. I've heard. I can't remember any names now, but I've heard there are a few comedians that have done that over the years. I think maybe someone said like Daniel Kitson, because he was like so good, he would like deliberately start a gig off badly to challenge himself.
Oh, and I know, like, apparently Larry David.
Aye.
Apparently he'd sometimes just shout at people in the audience.
I saw a YouTube short about that recently. Actually,
I think it was trending a lot because of the last season of Curb.
Right? Who was it that was? It was a now big American comedian was talking about how they opened for him, and he did that pretty much. But I just imagine being that confident in your comedy skills that you'd be like, I'm gonna go and bomb for the first 5 minutes because I know I can turn this around. Like, wow.
I know. I think I've seen once an act of again a good friend of mine, and I think he did like he was doing a character bit where he was just doing really badly, and then at some one point he kind of just goes, "Oh, I should have not quit my day job," and then he just like changed it around.
That is a nice line to like change the dynamic.
It was just nice to like see him like almost like, again, have this like pretend breakdown on stage. You're like, oh my god, is he okay? And then he actually starts doing, again, good. I get no good material, like like funny material, like actually like well written material. But how did you get into comedy in the first place?
I just wanted so since I was like 18 or 19, I wanted to try it. Like I kind of liked watching. I didn't watch very much stand up. In fact, I didn't watch any stand up, but I liked panel shows.
Oh,
Like Have I Got News for You and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, the guys on that are comedians. So it was in the back of my head from like 18, but it took me years and years to get the balls to try it. So I did like a comedy writing when I first, not when I first moved to London, about 2 years after I moved to London, or 3 years or something, I did a comedy writing course. And at the end of that, they did like a showcase gig, but that wasn't, it was in a comedy club, but it wasn't a real gig because it was just all the people that did the
Yeah.
course and their friends. And that was fine. And then the guy that ran it was like, here's some open mics. I would encourage you to go do open mic gigs and all the
Okay.
rest of it. Because I was so nervous, it took me another like 6 months to do one open mic. And I think I was so naive that it was like fine. It was like a 6 or 7 out of 10 maybe gig. I was for a new comic, like
Ye-
all relative to that, I should say. I'm sure it would be dog shit now, but it was just okay. But I was like, oh no, like I was so naive. I was like, well, that wasn't like the comics I see on the telly. It wasn't like rapturous applause. So it took me over a year to do one more gig, and I just went through this stupid period where I would do one gig, and unless it was like rock and roll, it would be months until I would do it again because I got so nervous.
No way.
Yeah, but anyway, in about late 2016 or early 2017, I finally like actually did more than one gig a month. And as we all know, that you get better by doing it. So like I gigged a lot from 2017 till about the middle of 2019. Like I probably did 100 gigs in 2017, 100 in 2018, so and like pro rata. And so several hundred in that time. And then just like kind of got a bit fatigued with it.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, I'll take a little bit of time off. Just as I started like regaining interest, COVID hit. So then we're all forced to stop for a while. And now it's 2024, and I've only just like really, I dabbled with a few gigs last year when I still lived in Manchester, but I never really consistently did it. But now I'm like looking to consistently do it again.
And
So a lot of that's laziness, man. A lot of, like COVID stopped it for a while, but it didn't stop it for 4 years. That's just me being lazy, 100%.
but I think you know what. Sometimes you just gotta accept it just the way it is, no? Because I think the amount of times when I started doing comedy, and obviously I'm still very new to it, but at least when I started, I don't know what it was like when you did, Willie. When I started, it was like, oh, you gotta do every single opportunity you have, you gotta
Yeah.
go, and then I'd go for it, and then like I think in a similar position where you were, where I'd go on stage and it would be like literally an audience of one or just comedians, and then you're like, oh, this is not the applause, I'm not getting a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And I just think, oh, why? And then I'd feel so miserable about it, but then I'd still do it. While I think now I got to a point where I'm trying to balance it with whatever feels right for me.
Yeah, that's
You know?
good. Right.
So
I'm not like I no longer believe the theory that you should do every single gig, but I'm not also not some prima donna where I'm like, I'll only do this gig and that gig. Like there's a balance to be struck there. I'll do shitty gigs, no problem, but I don't want to do one to literally know people that if you truly get nothing out of it, no enjoyment and nothing back from like an audience or anything, then I don't think there's much point in that. But I stress I'm not a fucking prima donna because I'm not good enough to be a prima donna either.
but I also think, on the because I sometimes, at least at the moment, what I do is I don't travel, like I don't go out of my way for something that I'm not sure if it's gonna go well or not. Because I think that's where it becomes harder for me, Because I think
Yep.
last summer when I first moved to when I first, as if I haven't moved to London before. When I moved to London last summer, I there were so many gigs that got cancelled. But then I think a couple of times, no, actually a handful of times, when I would go to the gig, like I would travel for almost 2 hours,
Yep.
and then to find out there is no gig on.
Fuck.
And then I'd be like,
And that's I assume that's costing money as well. You need to pay for trains to
yeah.
Kent or Essex or wherever you go. So that's not a sustainable way to do it.
And then I was just thinking about on the way back, I would, I would beat myself over it, And then I just thought, yeah, no, I can't. Like, that's the thing. This summer looks fairly light, and that's because there is a lot. I'm writing a lot. I don't know what you like. Do you like to prepare a lot before you go on stage, or do you usually like just to riff off
No, I write. I prefer to write. I've got like a lot of people. I've got a notes file on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have an idea when I'm out and about, I'll note it down there, and then later that day or at some point, I'll sit down and like try and flesh that out.
Have you changed much in comedy, like in the respects of like what you were like, or even what you thought you'd be, or what you wanted to be like as a comedian?
100%. Any Scottish guy my age probably grew up on Kevin Bridges, and like the older generation would be Billy Connolly. So I'm sure my early stuff was just me copying Kevin Bridges, and like that's not a clever idea because he's got that, like that's his thing. So I've started really appreciating like smart, like concise joke writing now. I love short, snappy jokes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I sound like a funny story and a long bit is also great, but right now I'm quite intrigued by shorter, snappier bits. I've been watching a lot of Anthony Jeselnik, Mitch Hedberg,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of that's like one-liners. I don't think I'd quite be like a straight up one-liner guy, but yeah, everyone does long bits and real personal bits and all that. So maybe I could go against. Maybe it would be going against the grain a little bit to do shorter, snappier jokes with no deeper meaning. Like if you want me to talk about fucking politics or other stuff, I believe I'll do that on a podcast. But like this is just stand up. This is jokes. But like everything's, I'm playing with that at the moment. I'm taken by that idea at the moment.
Interesting. But then how do you find it? Because I always, as in like the stress, because I'm talking about the way the stress of working or like coming up with that material. Because I do find sometimes I think of things that are like have nothing to do with what my set actually is.
Yep.
But then the amount of energy that I have to spend to then make it a part of the set is
Yeah.
what's draining me. So how do you find it?
So that's one of the reasons why I'm moving to shorter bits. Like if I have a thought that's just like nothing to do with anything really, I can be like, well, that's just a one-liner, and because I'm not doing these long anecdote bits, I don't need to stress myself out to it. How do I get from the bit where I used to live in China, where I'm doing a joke about that, to this fucking observation about like the West Ham football stadium? I don't need to think about that anymore because it's just bang, bang, bang.
Interesting. Well, you just touched it now. You have lived. How long did you live in China for?
6 months, 10 plus years ago, but it was very formative. Like it was mental. Like moving there at 22. Yeah, I was 22, and it was just like it was very crazy. I'd been like on holiday to Spain and places like that, and I'd been to America. I'd been to New York and all that. So that's like far in terms of distance, but not in terms of culture.
Wait, but was it like as in before you turned 22, you went on holidays to like America and
Yeah.
Spain, but then so your first trip,
That was the first time living somewhere. I got a job
did you go with anyone?
over there. No, just it was like it was the way it came about was so quick. So for my uni degree, we had to do like a 6 month, or I think it was a 5 month work placement thing, and you
Right.
could do anything, anywhere, whatever. So I applied to loads of stuff, and this Chinese company got back to me. This sounds like made up. It's true. The email went into my junk inbox, so I didn't see it for a while, and then checked my junk, and here was this email saying like, "Oh, we read your CV. We'd love to do an interview." So I was like, "Oh my god!" This was in December of 2011, and the placement had to start in early January, so it's pretty soon. So I went for the interview, or like did the interview via Skype or whatever the thing was at the time. And it wasn't an interview. The guy was like, "When can you start? When can we book your flight for?" It was like, "You're hired." So I was like, "Oh fuck!" So I think my flight was the 2nd of January, and it was finalised in like mid-December. Had Christmas and all that and New Year to do. Celtic were playing Rangers. They won 1-0 through a Joe Ledley header, I believe, on like the 27th of December. That was a big night out. Christmas and New Year were big nights out. So all of that took my focus off of this. And then it was like, bang, you're going to China tomorrow. So I was totally unprepared. Didn't speak a word of the language, obviously. The company, they had like an apartment that they owned that they gave to like the
Nice.
intern people like me, so I didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, it was like got this plane ticket, a flight to Hong Kong, and then there would be a taxi driver to drive me across the border from Hong Kong to mainland China, and that was it. And then I was in it, and I was shitting myself when I got there. Right up until the moment I landed, I was like, "Whoa, this is an adventure." When it hit me, it was like panic attack, culture shock, something. I was crying down the phone to my dad for the first 2 weeks of it.
Oh
I
my
was like,
god.
"What the fuck?" Like what have I signed up for? I don't know anyone. I don't speak the language. People are pointing at me because I'm like a really tall, pale, white guy, and I'm very, very different to everyone. This is terrifying. And yeah, it was like I've had like I've not got like clinical depression or anything, but like a lot of people, I've had anxious episodes in my life. This was like that all the time for like several weeks. It was like there's a weight on my chest. I was like, what the fuck? Like this is. I want to quit my job. I want to go back.
But yet you didn't. You were kind of like you were still like going to work, or what do you working? No, you weren't remote. Like
You know, I was
yeah.
straight into the office. The other thing, so it was the problem was exacerbated by my boss was Irish, and a lot of my colleagues were like British, American, foreign, but they were all still back home in their relative countries for Christmas and New Year. So I was like kind of on my
Oh,
own with no one really to like take me under their wing. When the boss came back from home, he was brilliant. He was not actually not that much older than me at the time. He like took me to the pub, like, introduced me to people, got me in the football team, got me a social life basically, and he was just like, "Oh, here's how you fucking get the subway, and like here's how this works and that works," and that was that. But for 2 weeks, I was like,
nice.
Jesus Christ, man, what the fuck have I done here? But that also like young guy confidence allows you to take that jump. I probably wouldn't make a jump like that now because I'm a bit more like cautious. But I made the jump, then was like, oh shit, what the fuck have I done? Luckily, it turned out okay.
That's
It was
mad
great.
because you were. I mean, you're from Glasgow, right?
Yep.
So you at least you grew up in a. Did you grow up like? Was it how? What's Glasgow? I guess it's seen as by people who live in Glasgow. Is in like, what do you live in the city center? Is it suburbs? How do you
Yeah,
know?
like suburbs. So area I grew up in is like 6 miles out of the city centre. So it's like a
Right.
pretty standard suburb. Went to school round there and all that. The city, like I didn't really go into the city much just because nothing I did. Like I did sports and all that as a kid, which wasn't in the city. The other half of like the friendship group would have been into music and things. They would have went to the city to go to gigs and shows, but I wasn't really into like music gigs.
Oh, right. Okay. No, because I thought you were saying as in like you have done music.
No, I played drums.
No way.
I did music for like my standard grade, which is Scottish equivalent of GCSE. So I had to play drums and like,
What?
but I was not into bands or anything. I did it because it was an easy subject and playing the drums was fun. That's why I did that.
But then when you studied for university, did you study in Glasgow as well?
Yeah, and so Glasgow University's in like it's not in the city centre, it's in the west end of the city, but it's like very close to the city centre. And
Well, so basically, what do you like from living at home?
Yeah.
You were like, that's it. I'm just gonna I'm gonna get a job in China.
pretty much. So I had the year before that, I had done a summer internship thing in New York. So that was cool. Like, but again, New York's culturally this like similar to the UK. Like, you speak the language for one thing. That is not comparable to moving to China.
And have you been to like the States since I guess since you started doing stand up?
Yeah, I've done shows in the States. It's great fun, man. American
Really?
audiences fucking want it. They're so much more energetic than Brit.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, yeah, bro, woo! Like high fiving. They're great, man. And like, it's not lost on me that I got extra funny points for being a foreigner. Like that definitely helps.
Fair
But
enough.
having said that, I had to speak so slowly and clearly. Like, I really cringe listening back to the gigs I did over there.
No way.
Yeah, because they just didn't understand me at all. Which I've got like maybe a fairly strong accent to an American, and I can speak quickly and like mash words together. So I understand that. But listen back, I'm like, oh my fucking god, mate, listen to yourself. You sound like an idiot.
Do you do you find yourself now changing, I guess, like your attitude from like when when you're on stage, even like your accent as well, from when you're on stage to off stage, or like even when I guess when you're recording for your YouTube channel, do you change? Or you just like you just roll with whatever, however you are and however you feel?
So I've not, by Glasgow standards, I've not got a strong accent. Like a lot of my family members, like people even in England, would seriously fucking struggle to understand them. So I've not got the strongest accent, therefore it doesn't change much no matter where I am. I got bullied in school for having a posh accent,
Oh,
which people down here are like, you what, mate? You're not posh, you're rough as shit. Fuck off. So I don't change it that much, but there's definitely like, if I'm doing a gig or something, or like on the phone, in work, I'll speak a bit more slowly, and I know there's certain words that I say that people will like misunderstand, so I'll like I won't change my accent, but like also I do want to be understood. So
Yeah, fair
I know
enough.
if someone's struggling, I'll like speak slowly, or there's certain things like Scottish people don't pronounce T's, so like butter, the spread that you put in your bread, I'm like butter,
Yeah.
butter, like that's a foreigner or even like English people would be like, what was that noise? So like words like that, I'll try and say like, oh, I'll have butter, which even it makes me cringe to even say that.
Well, when you do, how do you pronounce them? Because Celtics used to have a sponsor, right? Tenants.
Tenants, yeah. So that's not the worst. Tenants. That's not the worst. Yeah,
That's
that's
okay.
fairly
Yeah.
understandable. But
I-
there's definitely words that I've learned through experience, through loads of people looking at me blankly, or like doing that thing where they're like understanding 80% of what you're saying, like filling in the rest. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to change certain things. I had to break. I was going to a physio because I had like a sore hip from running, and I had to like break up with my physio because he just wasn't understanding me fully. And I was like, man, this is too. It's not the physio's fault. It's my fault. I know that. But I was like, this is too important. Like I can't have 80%. It's the same when I get a haircut. I'm like almost to the point of sounding patronizing to the guys. I'm like, do you totally understand what I've asked for here? Don't make any assumptions or any guesses. Don't, if you need to get me to repeat myself 10 times, I'd rather do that than you fuck up my haircut.
Fair.
So like stuff like that. Most of the time it's just funny. Like if it's just like inconsequential stuff, but sometimes I'm like, no, do you fucking understand what I'm saying?
But then, okay, before do you have like now, because you actually lived in quite a few places,
Yeah.
like you moved around a bit. So do you actually like how hard is it for you to change barbers? And I guess like once you, for example, now you've been in London for how long? You went since you moved
months.
back? 4 months. Did you? Are you going to the same barber now, or
Yeah, I've got a guy. I found a barber who's like pretty decent. So the barber I went to, it's like just a barber shop, and I think it's family run. And there's this little kid who the first time I went in, this little kid came out, and he looks like 14. I was like, oh my fucking god! Like he is like the work experience kid, but he cut my hair perfect. So
nice?
after I was like being like very clear, like I want a high skin fade, pronouncing my words very clearly. But once he got it right, like now we've got this. I just go in and I'm like, yeah, you know what I want. And he's like, yeah, I know what you want. But yeah, that was like also like I don't want to sound like I'm vain because I'm not actually vain, but you don't want to fuck up your haircut. Like
I don't think you. I don't. I would personally don't want to fuck up anything that can be fucked up. Like if I can make sure that I've like anything that can be given instructions towards to do it in a way that which I like or makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I prefer. I think I actually, because I haven't thought about this. I think forever since now, but I've realized that when I was in Romania, I only had one hairdresser my whole life.
wow.
Like I had the same hairdresser since I can remember. So since I was because I was adopted, but since I can remember my first haircut, I remember the exact same lady cut my hair until I have left the country.
That first haircut after her must have been stressful as fuck for you.
But not even that. But then I remember like moving around Manchester and then even like coming to London and, adding to everything else that was going on. But this whole thing of like, I gotta go and I gotta tell someone what I want.
Yep.
And
I'm bad, so I don't like. I've just spent. It's not lost on me. I've just spent a lot of time talking about haircuts. And I don't actually know that much about haircuts. So like, I don't know the terminology. I only recently learned what a skin fade is. I will walk up to people on the street or people I know who have got like a nice haircut. I'm like, mate, what exactly do you say to the barber to get them to do
do you
it?
actually?
Yeah. Like, there's a guy I work with. I was like, and his hair's like spot on. I was like, mate, what is the exact like phrase that you say to the barber to make it look like that? I was like, can I take a picture of the back of your head and just show this to them so they can replicate it? Because I don't understand the chat.
Fair.
That and he taught me the meaning of a skin fade. I did not fucking know what that meant.
That's that that's actually really that's beautiful.
Yeah, and
But-
it was nice for him, I'm sure. Because I was like, mate, you've got a great hairdo. Tell me how to get
That's
that.
what I was gonna say. I actually imagine, I was going to do a totally like cynical thing where I like, imagine I have the worst day of my life. I don't I I struggle with everything, and then someone just walks to me going like, "Your hair looks amazing.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me word by word
Yeah,
what do you do?"
I want that hair on my head, please. That's how good that is. And yeah, I'm like, I think like I try and like learn lots of stuff about lots of stuff, but there's some real basic stuff that I don't have any knowledge of, such as getting a proper haircut.
You know what? I don't. I don't blame you for that. I was wondering actually a while ago. I was wondering how. So how do you, being from Glasgow, how do you choose, or like how does you get? How do you get to either again? Because is it Celtic and Rangers? That's
Yes.
the biggest team.
Yes.
Is there another team that's like not spoken about as much?
Oh
That's-
yeah, so Partick Thistle are the next biggest team in Glasgow, but they're currently in the championship, so they're not even in the top division.
But then what? How does it work? I guess for a Glaswegian.
Yep,
Glaswegian to is it something that you I don't know, like your parents into it, were like kids at school,
Yeah,
were
it's okay in Glasgow at least. It's very strictly down like sectarian religious lines. Celtic is the Catholic team, Rangers is the Protestant team. It has always been thus. Celtic, so the word Celtic is derived from the word Celtic, which is of Ireland. It was founded by Irish, mainly Catholic immigrants to Glasgow in 1888, and so that community has just always supported that team. So like my family's Catholic, and if you go back quite a few generations on one side at least, it'll be Irish somewhere down the line. So
interesting.
pretty much that's like that I would say the vast majority of Celtic supporters are Catholic, and the vast majority of Rangers supporters are Protestant.
But then I mean, I was gonna say UC, but I've seen a few like YouTube videos and interviews with like people who grew up in Glasgow, and it was like about the wars between like the fan groups.
Yeah.
Was that like
I mean, it's not like it's certainly not a thing now.
as dramatic as
Yeah, back so I'm too young for this, but like back when my parents would have been like in their 20s and going to get jobs, Catholics were discriminated against. So it would have in like the 60s, 70s, maybe after
that's
that, maybe
still
not.
very early.
Yeah, if you went for a job, they would ask you what school you went to, and if you said St. John's or St. Joseph's, that meant it was a Catholic school, and that meant you ain't getting the job.
No way.
Yeah, and that was a thing. Like, I cannot stress enough that did not happen to me. Like that was pretty much gone by the time I grew up, but that was a thing one generation back, which is wild to me.
Yeah, it sounds mad.
Yeah, but they like, unlike like there's a lot of like you can discriminate against people today, like on the color of their skin. Perhaps you can visually see that, but like you can't look at someone and tell they're a Catholic, so they'd fucking ask you what school you went to in a job interview, and then we're like, all right, well, we're not going to hire this guy. That's what I've been told by older generations, but it's not. That was a thing in society. I'm sure there'll still be pockets of that. Like there's bigotry everywhere. I think in general we're becoming more tolerant of each other, and
In general.
in general. But like there's always like, unfortunately, it is like human nature. There's always going to be hatred somewhere. So I'm sure there still is like people that don't like Catholics, people that don't like Protestants, whatever. I think it's pretty mental to not like someone because of their religion. Like, who gives a fuck about that?
I think about based on anything to get to the point where you're, like you're entirely alienating yourself from a group of people.
Yeah.
Based on, again, which I always found fascinating, in the respects of especially without even knowing the said people.
Mm-hmm.
Where you kind of, because I actually, funnily enough, today I posted this video of the Hungarian number 9.
Yep.
I love that guy.
Yeah,
I think that guy should be in adverts for like Adidas like tracksuits or like t-shirts, because
Yep.
that's what it looks like on real people.
Yeah. He's a normal dude.
And I love the way he talked about like his like the memes. Well, look, some of the memes were incredible, and again, if anything, credit to him. But yeah, he was talking about it, and I was like, oh my god, I love this guy.
Aye.
He seemed like such a genuinely beautiful guy. But then growing up, being Romanian, we like I grew up not liking Hungarians, although I have not met one.
Yeah, yeah, like so that stuff like that's dead interesting to me. So like you grew up where you grew up, and you've got your own like little rivalries. I think it's so fascinating to think that like that is a thing all over the world. So I didn't really know there was a beef between Romanians and Hungarians. Now I do know that. Like that stuff like that's dead fascinating.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, okay, so because you kind of like, oh, they are they are bad, we don't like them, and then I was like, okay, fine, not thinking about it, and then I remember the first time I met someone from Hungary, and I was like, oh, all this like scare, like it's almost like, oh, I have to be careful now. I don't know why, but I kind of like have to be. And looking back at it now, years later, I'm like, oh my god, that was so bizarre.
Yeah, how did
Because I
we
think the
find
first time
out?
I've met a Hungarian person was when I was like 14 or 15, and we went there to play handball.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, they're not as scary.
Yeah. I wonder, is it just like they're a neighboring country, right? Is that just how it goes? Like,
I think no. Well, this is strange though because I find it with like Bulgaria not so bad, but I
right.
think because Hungary used to be the Austro-Hungarian Empire,
Mm-hmm.
so they used to, like they've enslaved a parts of Romania.
Right.
That's why there, because this is the thing also, the parts of Romania which have say, or again, because I also feel like saying something I said earlier, I can't stress enough, I've luckily not, again, I've seen, I guess, like how people like, again, kids would talk about it, or like, the things like your dad would be like, oh, I don't like Hungarians, but
Yep.
then again, I've never actually like, luckily I've never been in a position to see someone being discriminated
Aye.
for the fact that they were like, the thing is, loads of like athletes played in Hungary. Anyway, but yeah, that's the thing, apparently that has something to do with it, because we used to be under their authority,
Right.
and they apparently used to not treat us very nicely,
Right.
and that's why it kind of like, and I think especially now, and I think growing up, like for Romanians, because now Hungary is like the size that it is
Mm-hmm.
compared to what it used to be,
Aye.
it just makes like every Romanian's heart like skip a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose like I can see why older generations would think like that because they were closer to the bad
Yeah.
period. But yeah, as time goes on, like
But this is the thing when you were saying now about like in the 70s and 80s, and that's like, I mean, even like my dad's story and stuff, they're like from 50s, and still very early, like not that long ago. And wait, what, because we were talking about stuff,
yes.
but then earlier, because yeah, that's the thing, so it's not, you were saying that there are obviously like still like extremist sides of it, it's not as bad. What, because obviously there was a time when Rangers went like down because of like the financial
Oh,
problems.
great days. That was the first time I moved London. That was all kicking off. I would wake up 1 hour earlier every day to read all the scandal on social media. It was sensational. So they went bankrupt. They were found. They were doing some. They were paying their players in a way that like evaded tax, and they were hit with a gigantic tax bill which they couldn't afford.
Couldn't afford.
And they went bankrupt. Absolutely, mwah, chef's kiss, magnificent. It was great.
But then because you've got, I think, anyway, because there are like Leeds supporters, right, that are like very big Rangers fans by
Leeds?
association.
Leeds, I don't know about. The axis of evil in my mind is Rangers, Chelsea, Hamburg, and Millwall. They've got like a fucking weird love-in. For each other.
Really?
Yeah. Aye.
What, Chelsea and Millwall? Rangers, Chelsea,
And
Millwall.
Millwall. I don't know what their relationship is to each other, but
Oh, but
Rangers
to
there's an affinity
Rangers.
to those and Hamburg.
Interesting.
Yeah, but like I think stuff like that's dead funny as well because it's kind of incongruous.
Is it because of the color blue?
They do like now that there is a lot of blue going on. I think it's political. I think it's socio-political.
Really?
I think yeah. I would need to I would need to look more deeply into this, but I know there's like a sort of love-in between all of those. Like
That's-
Rangers are big. Like Rangers are very like pro the British Union, like the monarchy, the royal family, and all that.
Oh.
Whereas Celtic fans are like would be like more pro Scottish independence or like not having not having a king and all the like republicanism, but not
yeah.
not in the American republicanism sense. Like republican as in let's be a republic without a king as the head of state.
But then, because I was thinking, okay, well, I get it with like because HSV used to be, and it's like they are meant to be like a very uh right wing, I guess, football club
Right.
historically.
Right.
But I always thought Chelsea before the like the Abramovich era used to be like a working class club, right? And I think like Millwall as well. So-
So Chelsea, I don't know. I know Millwall weirdly was founded whenever it was founded by Scottish dock workers in Millwall
Ah.
docks. So I don't know if there's a historic connection there. I'm sort of vaguely aware of the kind of love in between Rangers, Chelsea, Millwall, Hamburg. There's probably other ones as well.
Is it like does Celtic have any?
Yes, Celtic's sort of equivalent to that is St. Pauli, the German
Yeah.
team. There's like a similar kind of love in there. Who they're like they're by far the biggest, like
The biggest.
the biggest one that they've got this thing with. For different reasons, there used to be like a Celtic Man United sort of thing, not like politically or anything. It was just like loads of players on each side would like retire and have the testimonial. And then
Again.
Celtic would play Man United in testimonials and vice versa. I think it's just because they both had big supports, and so they would be guaranteed a good crowd for it.
You know, I actually I now this is like such a random thing to say, but I wonder what happened to testimonials. Because I remember like growing up, there used to be so many, like lots of players used to have a testimonial when they retire. Well, now they just
So-
retired.
I think that might be traditionally you would get a testimonial if you played for one club for 10 years. Players move around more now.
That's a
That
good
would
point.
be my guess. I know
That's a
that
good
10
point.
years was like considered the threshold where if you did 10 years for a club, you would get a
You'd-
testimonial. Also, like back in the day, testimonials were meant to like generate a lot of money for the player. Like before football was like mega money.
Oh yeah, because they would get either like the tickets.
Yeah.
Or they would get a huge.
It would be like your retirement gift that you would
Yeah.
sell out the stadium and the ticket sales would go to you. But because they all make $100,000 a week now anyway, that doesn't really matter so much anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, because it's like such a wild, I guess, like with money
Aye.
making, which again, to an extent, it's just it's just crazy. Because I know I sometimes I play Football Manager, and like to see the difference between like going to like Vanarama to then you go like League EFL,
Yep.
and you're just like, whoa, this is crazy. From like £250 a week
Aye.
to like 10 grand, and then you go to 30 grand, and then you go to like over 100, and you're like, what is
Yeah.
happening?
And it's like kind of fine margin between them. But so my anxiety brain is going crazy right now. I'm like, if any like Scottish football fans listen to this, I bet they'll be fucking fact checking me and be like, Rangers and Chelsea don't have a thing, or Celtic have a thing with these guys. This is just from the best of my memory, if anyone is considering.
Oh yeah,
So
look,
fuck off.
I was also gonna say for this, we have nothing in front of us to say that we've done any research. I feel like
No.
everything that we've discussed about is kind of like, oh, I have this thought.
Yeah, this is fully off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure those club affiliations are right, but I'm probably
Again,
getting something wrong.
Look, they might just be based on colors. That's my because then I thought you got like what Celtics and who else is green?
Panathinaikos. We've got no affiliation to them, I don't think, but they've got like a green
Yeah.
and white and like a shamrock. And
And
that.
I love I'm actually like Panathinaikos is my Greek football club.
Aye.
Yeah, because I get to pick one by country. And I think growing up as well, because of the way like Romanian players used to kind of like move around,
Mm-hmm.
but then they obviously, because I guess we weren't, blessed with the most of like influential footballers, although some very good ones. But then they would play for like very random teams, so that's why I know. Because we had the Romanians playing for Panathinaikos.
Right.
If you remember, if you ever heard Energie Cottbus?
Yeah. German team.
yeah. So I used to play them in FIFA a lot. I used to Nuremberg as well. Used to have this guy called Laszlo Sepsi. But anyway, yeah. So that's I think this is, at least for me as a Romanian, I think not the only, but I think besides Christian Kivu.
Yep.
Yeah. So he played for Roma and Inter, and I think that's when I started kind of like following Roma. But Ajax, I think, was one of the huge football clubs or
Uh,
huge, like at least by name, because obviously they didn't have a great year.
Kivu was in one of the old Football Manager games. Kivu was like a fucking unstoppable signing, and you could get him for. I used to sign him all the time,
No
and
way.
he'd be brilliant. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, he's a manager now for the Inter Primavera, the young the
The
youth,
youth team.
yeah, one of the youth
Okay,
teams of
I
Inter.
don't know that.
Yeah, there were rumors. I think that he might. There were rumors that Juventus might. I was like, pipe it down.
Right.
Wait, yeah, calm down. But anyway, coming back to because it was something that I actually wanted to talk about because I think the what we call it the this episode is coming out just either around or just like before the election.
Yes.
So-
The Jenny Lex, as they call it in the UK.
Who does?
That's like there's this fucking stupid thing about abbreviating stuff. So like Flatty Jubes for the Platinum Jubilee, Jenny Lex for the general election.
The thing is because I and this is something that we did I have to like bring it up as in we have discussed a little bit before we started recording is because it's the first time I can vote in these like in general elections.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of like paid more attention than I usually would.
Hmm.
And I just found it fascinating because to me, I just feel like it's like they're like I feel like the or at least like the big parties they are kind of like playing hot potato. You know, the game.
So yeah. I know the phrase as well. Yeah. So Labour or like Labour Party are going to win this election by
Yeah, for
miles.
sure.
But they're playing it very safe in the campaign. Like they're not committing to much. I think they've probably had a good idea they're going to win for a long time, and they're probably just like, don't fuck it up. Don't say anything in any remotely way controversial, and you'll just win.
Have you watched any of the debates by any chance?
Yeah. I watched the head-to-head Starmer and Sunak, and then I've watched some of the multi-party ones as well.
I loved in one of the head-to-heads there was a thing where I think Keir Starmer again, and I'm not saying it word by word. It's not. I don't have the text in front of me, but I just found it funny. Where I think the lady interviewing was like, "Hey, so you're saying that you're like you don't have a plan, like a huge plan?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, kind of like, "Why not?" And he was like, "Because we don't want to lie, saying that we have a plan and then we don't deliver. We just." So I was like, you know what? It's kind of like, well, at least we basically me and my partner we were making a joke about it where imagine like the election is over, they again like I said clearly win, and then nothing happens, and then they'll be like, well, we told you.
Yeah.
Like
I do think, yeah, to some extent, like they must know that like the country's kind of fucked, the economy's fucked, so they'd be crazy to make all these promises that they know they're not going to deliver on. But as mentioned earlier, I think there's a pathway to Labour will win easily this time. They'll get their 5 years in power. Not that much will change. People will still be disillusioned and raging, and then will swing back. So either Nigel Farage will become Conservative Party leader, or some other like very right wing person will lead the Conservatives to a victory in 5 years. I think we're going to like oscillate more extremely in the next few elections, as we're seeing in America. I think Trump's going to win this time in America. And then in 2028, it'll be a Democrat. I think people are just like shorter attention spans, more raging, more angry, and they're just like fucking change all the time. Like if things don't hit the ground running straight away, then they will punish. I think I saw like a polling thing recently where in most like developed countries in the world, the incumbent government, whether they're left wing, right wing, centre, are fucking hated because like COVID and all the economic inflation stuff over the last few years. Everyone's had a shit time. They're blaming their government no matter what their government's position is. So incumbent governments are just going to get battered right now.
But then I was wondering about the because there was this thing where we were saying that it's kind of like things are happening in America, then it's moving slowly here. I find it so wild because like America is still like it's a newish country.
Yep.
You'd actually like to me I still think that historically you'd like have everyone follow like what happens in Egypt,
Aye,
because
aye.
they've been around for longer.
Yeah. There was a really good during the African Cup of Nations, Egypt scored like a last minute goal, and the English commentator was like, "Oh, this will go down in history as one of the greatest Egyptian moments ever." Like, really? Do you fucking know how old their civilization is? You've got a lot. There's like 6,000 years of stuff, and Mo Salah scoring the last minute penalty. Like really?
Yeah,
But
imagine.
yeah, I mean, America, yeah, it's a young nation, but it is the dominant nation in like global terms at the moment. So we get like when America sneezes, the world catches a cold or whatever the phrase is. When America gets the cold, the world sneezes. I think that's the phrase.
Anyway, no, don't fact check.
Yeah, I'm very paranoid about fact checkers today. I'm just saying shit off my head, right? Leave me alone. Fuck off.
I mean, I would actually, I think it would be quite funny to have, just loads of like, I don't know, people commenting or like reviewing or like, this is factually incorrect. This is factually incorrect. There is not enough. But anyway, it's not about that. And look, I think, yeah, that was just a point that we wanted to cover. But now I was just going to ask you, because obviously there is are you going to watch the game tonight?
Scotland, Hungary, yes.
Yes.
If Scotland win, they're through to the second round of the Euros for the first
Well,
time
you know what,
ever.
actually, because it's quite, and again, I don't think, yeah, what's your prediction for the Euro so far?
I want anyone but England to win it. I don't even mind like Southgate, and Southgate's fine. I don't think he's a great manager, but he's fine. I like a lot of the English players. I like Bellingham. I like Kane. All the rest of it. But the English like football media do my fucking head in, man. The arrogance, the hubris. So I need to see them defeated.
I think you say that because it's easy to see it, but I feel like it's everywhere.
In other countries, you mean? Maybe like the French media are the same or something. I don't know. That could well be right.
I was gonna say because I actually I think that the media is so easy like to do like people's head in, because I always thought about like I used to not follow like Romanian football for ages because I just found the Romanian bias was like the Romanian media was just like the bias was incredible. Like if we won one game against San Marino, we'd be like Romania is the number one
Here we go.
in the world. But then if we lost or even if it withdrew, then it would just go like on a spiral, and I'll be like, let's not forget that our players play in like third division in Germany.
Aye.
You
Like,
know, sort
get
of.
this into proportion.
Yeah.
So my prediction for the Euros is I'm very worried about how good England's players are. They've not been playing well, but they've got Bellingham, who's one of the best players in the world, and Kane, who's scored 40 goals or something in Germany. Their players are very good, and therefore I'm worried about them winning it. They've got, as they always seem to do, they've got a fucking easy draw and an easy path. It's looking likely that it'll be easy until the semi-final, and then they'll get France. I expect France to beat them and maybe win the whole thing. Spain have looked very good as well.
I feel like with Spain they have almost like a history of like bottling things since that like beautiful generation of like 2010s. God, yeah, I feel like it's so hard to. Yeah, I don't know who's gonna win it because, like you said, individually, and I had a very like fanboy moment with Bellingham. You know, after the first game. I don't know. I just found it. I just find him so like I don't usually get attracted or like I'm not usually like so big. Although I know like maybe 15, 20 minutes ago I said that I love the Hungarian number 9, but I don't usually get like those like fun. But I remember like with Bellingham, I was like, oh my god, I'm just gonna take a picture and put it as my screensaver because I love the guy.
See that Hungarian number 9, by the way? When he got subbed on for the first time, like when the thing that started the memes, the commentator on ITV or BBC, whatever it was like, oh, he looks more Scottish than Hungarian. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, that could he's got a beard and tattoos and he's a bit chubby. Like, what the fuck, man?
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. It was just like a daft throwaway comment from the commentator.
I actually I don't know what his not the Ali McCoy, it's the other one. Even yesterday when I watched the Romanian game, I was like, some of the remarks that he was making, I was just like, those are just so like dumb.
Aye.
You know, to the point where I kind of get it because you want to. I actually not I don't get it, but I feel like when you go to like an open mic comedy and you feel like, oh, I need to make a reference about something that happened earlier,
So yeah, just anything will do.
Oh yeah, because I think basically the Romanian right wing has dyed his hair blonde. No blonde, sorry, blue.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No Sonic, but yes, that guy, Sonic the Hedgehog, dyed his hair blue, and then Doku was the player that he was like guarding, which actually he did a pretty good job given the fact that he plays, I think, in the second division in Spain, and Doku won the Premier League. But basically, like he did this reference like, oh, I wonder why he dyed his, or like something about like, oh, why does he have blue hair? I reckon by the end of the game he's gonna gray out. He's gonna get grayed out. And I was like,
a shit line, man.
Yeah, I was like, that's
He said Sonic the Hedgehog. I remember that passage of play, and the commentator said something about Sonic the Hedgehog. It's like, man, your battle's shit. Come on,
you
be
can do
better.
better. That was yeah, exactly. It's like it's a lot of money in it. I think. Look, if they could get some of us comedians to write some
Get
fun.
them some lines.
Yeah, I always think when I think of like Kevin De Bruyne, I think about that. Let me speak, let me speak. No, let me talk, man, let me talk.
I think Kevin De Bruyne. Are you a wrestling fan?
What?
Do you like WWE wrestling?
I used to, when I was younger.
I think Kevin De Bruyne looks like Brock Lesnar if he lost a shitload of weight. There's like a facial similarity between the
It
two.
does,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And the thing is, Brock Lesnar doesn't have the freckles.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
There's some like if Lesnar lost like most of his, if he got like a serious illness and lost a shitload of weight, he'd look like De Bruyne. I think.
I actually feel like he's kind of yeah. Now that you say it, I kind of feel like, you know, Kevin De Bruyne. Because I don't know why recently he looks just like very angry all the time, and I just feel like maybe he realized that if he would like maybe he wants to do like a Fernando Torres, retire from football, get hench,
Yeah.
and then
So you've seen the Torres videos? Yeah. The guy's jacked, man.
I know, yeah, he looks because he came in the Liverpool
The, the
the
testimonial thing.
well, it was like a charity game. It was like a reunion or whatever.
Yeah, the Sven Goran, the one where they got
Yeah,
Ericsson
when
and managed.
Sven Goran Eriksson managed, and I was like, he looks massive.
Yeah, is he not like a personal trainer or something now? Like for fun, but like just really a big jacked guy.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you ever had this, but it used to be a thing in Romania, maybe like 10 years ago, where everyone that was in high school with who didn't do well got got their personal
Personal
trainer degree. But anyway, I love them very much. No, I don't love them, but I wish them well. But yeah, anyway, no. So look, it was so amazing to have you on, and yeah, where do people keep in touch with you? Tell us about your YouTube account as well. What's the handle for that?
Yeah, YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. Chris Jokes one. Chris Jokes one. All the good stuff's on there. YouTube. So Instagram and the TikTok are like more funnier stuff, but with the running stuff as well, because it's short form content. YouTube, I've got like my full length, like kicking a football through Qatar videos and all that. So if that's your thing, go to the YouTube.
Well, you heard it, and yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Cheers, man. Really good chat.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and it's a 4th of July uh, voting episode, and we were chatting about it beforehand, about like the voting and the politics and stuff, and yeah, we thought we'll get it on the pod. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you, or not see you, but you'll hear from me in a few days again on Monday. Very good, one of my favorite comedians on the circuit, and yeah, a person that I just like in general and I look up to. But again, I do find very pleasant being around any of the guests on the podcast. Very nice people and very good chats. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. For Chris's socials and for his YouTube account, which I again for one found wonderful and I'm a big fan of. Check out the bio. Thank you and goodbye. Stay skillful.